A bag of compost from the garden center costs about $12. My own compost, the one that won last video's test, cost basically nothing but time. So the question I couldn't stop thinking about was simple. If I put them head to head in the exact same soil, does the $12 actually buy you anything, or are you just paying for a bag? Last time, I proved that not all compost is equal. The ratio of browns to greens going into a pile decides whether it finishes rich and dark or turns into a slimy mess. That test used only homemade compost, built from my own yard waste and kitchen scraps. But most gardeners watching this series don't have a compost pile going yet, or don't have space for one. And for them, the real question isn't about ratios, it's about which bag to grab off the shelf, or whether to bother building a pile at all when a bag is sitting right there for $12. So this time, I ran a direct comparison. My own balanced homemade compost, the winning recipe from last video, against two different bagged composts from two different garden centers. One, a well-known national brand, one, a smaller local supplier. Same depleted soil as every test in this series, same application rate, same jar test, same planting test, same 6 weeks. I want to be upfront that I went into this expecting my own compost to win, simply because I'd controlled every part of the process myself. What I actually found was more complicated than that, and more useful, because it turns out the differences between bagged composts are almost as large as the difference between bagged and homemade. Chapter 1. Reading the bag before opening it. Before running a single test, I read the label on both bagged products carefully, because it turns out the label tells you more than most gardeners realize to look for. The national brand bag listed its contents as composted forest products, manure, and other organic materials, with no further detail. It also listed an NPK number, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium ratio, which most raw compost doesn't naturally have printed on it, a sign that this product had likely been fortified with additional fertilizer rather than relying purely on decomposed organic material. The local supplier's bag was far more specific: leaf mold, food waste, and yard trimmings, composted on-site with an approximate age listed, 8 months. No fertilizer fortification mentioned. That level of detail on a label is unusual, and it turned out to matter quite a bit once I got both products into a jar. My own compost, obviously, came with no label at all, but I knew exactly what went into it because I built it in the last video. A roughly balanced mix of dried leaves and kitchen scraps, finished after 6 weeks of monitored temperature and moisture. That difference in transparency alone is worth naming before we even get to results. With homemade compost, you always know exactly what you're applying to your soil. With a bag, you're trusting a label. And as this test shows, not every label tells you the whole story. It's also worth mentioning what wasn't on neither bag: a manufacturer or expiration date beyond that rough age estimate from the local supplier, and no indication of what temperature the material reached during processing. Both of those numbers matter for the same reason they mattered in the last video. Heat during composting kills off weed seeds and most pathogens, and a product that never reached a proper temperature can carry both into your garden. Neither bag gave me a way to check that directly, which is itself a small but real point in favor of knowing your own process when you build a pile yourself.
Chapter 2. The Jar Test, Head to Head. I ran the same jar test from earlier in this series on all 3 composts mixed into matched samples of the same depleted soil used throughout this whole investigation. My own homemade compost produced the result I expected based on the last video: a thick, dark, organic band settling near the top of the water after 24 hours, closely matching what I'd seen from this exact recipe before. The local supplier's bagged compost came remarkably close to matching mine. The organic band was slightly thinner, but the color and texture in the jar looked nearly identical to my own. Given the label's description, leaf mold, food waste, and yard trimmings aged 8 months, that result actually made complete sense. It had gone through a genuine, patient composting process, just at a larger commercial scale than my backyard bin. The national brand's bagged compost told a very different story. The organic band was noticeably thinner than either of the other two, and the water above it stayed cloudier for longer, which usually points to a higher proportion of fine mineral particles rather than fully broken down organic material. This lines up with what the vague label suggested. Composted forest products and other materials can mean a lot of things, and apparently, in this case, it meant a product bulked out with material that hadn't fully finished composting, with fertilizer added to compensate for what the biology itself wasn't providing. 3 composts, 3 different results in the jar, and the vaguest label produced the weakest result, which is something I didn't expect going into this test, but makes a lot of sense in hindsight. I ran this same jar test a second time on a fresh sample from each bag, purely to make sure the first result wasn't a fluke from an unevenly mixed bag. Bagged compost can settle unevenly during shipping and storage, and I wanted a fair result, not a lucky or unlucky scoop. The second round matched the first almost exactly for all 3 composts, which gave me enough confidence in the pattern to move on to the actual growing test.
Chapter 3. Growing the same seed in all 3. Jar tests tell you about structure and organic content, but I wanted to see what these 3 composts actually did for a growing plant, the same way I tested 5 soils back in video 2. So I mixed each compost into a matched pot of depleted soil, planted the same tomato seed in all 3, and watched them for 6 weeks under identical conditions. The pot amended with my own homemade compost and the local supplier's bagged compost tracked each other closely almost the entire way through. Similar germination timing, similar leaf color, similar height by the end of the test. If I hadn't labeled the pots myself, I honestly wouldn't have been able to tell them apart just by looking. The pot amended with the nationally branded compost started reasonably well, helped along by that fertilizer fortification I mentioned earlier. Fast early color, decent initial growth. But by week 4, the growth had slowed noticeably compared to the other 2, in a pattern that looked familiar from an earlier video in this series. A fertilizer-driven head start with a weaker biological system underneath it to sustain that growth once the initial nutrient boost leveled off. By the end of the 6 weeks, the gap wasn't dramatic, but it was consistent and visible. The 2 truly composted treatments, mine and the local suppliers, finished within a close margin of each other. The nationally branded product finished noticeably behind both, despite technically costing the most per bag of the 3 options in this test. I pulled all 3 plants at the end of the test to check root development, the same way I did in video 2, and the pattern held there as well. Roots in the homemade and local supplier pots were fuller and more evenly branched. Roots in the national brand pot were noticeably less developed, concentrated more tightly near the surface rather than reaching down and outward through the soil, consistent with a plant that had been fed quickly through fertilizer rather than supported by a genuinely active biological system underground. Chapter 4. What you're actually paying for. This is the part of the video I think matters most for anyone who isn't planning to build their own compost pile anytime soon, because it reframes the entire question of what a $12 bag is actually buying you. You are not paying for the word compost printed on the front. You are paying for whatever specific process happened before that bag was sealed. And as this test shows, that process can vary enormously between 2 products sitting on the same shelf, both legally allowed to call themselves compost. The local supplier's product in this test performed close enough to my own homemade compost that I genuinely recommend it to anyone without the time or space to run a compost pile themselves. The national brand's product, despite being the more recognizable name and the pricier option, underperformed both of the other 2, not because it was fake or harmful, but because it was leaning on a fertilizer to cover for a less complete composting process. The lesson isn't avoid big brands or always trust small suppliers. It's that the label is genuinely worth reading before you buy.
Specific ingredients, a stated composting time frame, and the absence of an NPK fertilizer number are all signs you're looking at a product that did the actual biological work, rather than a product covering for a shortcut with added chemicals. None of this means a fertilizer-fortified product is worthless either. I want to be fair to it because it's not a scam, it's a design choice. It's built to deliver a fast, visible result for someone who wants quick color and growth and is willing to keep feeding the plant manually afterward. The problem only shows up if you're buying it under the assumption that it's rebuilding your soil's biology the way a fully finished compost would. It isn't. It's doing something else, and it's worth knowing the difference before you're standing in the garden aisle deciding between two bags that look almost identical.
Quick pause here. If this series has been useful to you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so the next video lands in your feed the moment it's up. We've covered dead soil, 5 soil growth tests, 30-day recovery, compost ratios, and now homemade versus bagged compost. There's still a lot of ground left to cover in this curriculum. Back to the results. Chapter 5. So which one actually wins? If I'm being fully honest about the result, this test didn't produce a single clean winner the way some of the earlier videos in this series did. It produced something more useful. A clear ranking with real trade-offs at every level. My own homemade compost performed best overall, but it cost time, not money, roughly 2 hours of hands-on effort spread across 6 weeks, plus a compost bin I already owned. If you have the space and the patience, this is genuinely the strongest option, and it's the one this entire series has been building towards showing you how to make. It's worth putting real numbers on that trade-off rather than leaving it vague. 2 hours of labor against a $12 bag is on paper an easy trade in the bag's favor if your time is limited. But that 2 hours produces a compost bin that keeps running season after season off material you're already throwing away. Yard waste, kitchen scraps, fallen leaves. The bagged option is a one-time purchase you'll need to repeat at $12 a bag every single time you want to feed a new section of your garden. Over a few seasons, the math starts to favor the pile, not just the result. The local supplier's bagged compost came in close second, and for anyone without the time, space, or patience for a compost pile, this is the real answer to the question this video opened with. $12 in this specific case bought a product that was doing almost everything my own compost was doing, just faster and with someone else doing the labor. The national brand's bagged compost finished last of the 3, despite costing the most. That doesn't make it useless, it still outperformed no compost at all, and it's still a reasonable option if it's genuinely the only thing available to you. But head-to-head against a product that's actually transparent about its process, it's clearly the weaker choice. The real takeaway isn't which specific brand to buy, since that will vary by where you live and what's on your local shelves. It's the method. Read the label. Look for specific ingredients and a stated time frame. Be skeptical of a fertilizer number printed on a bag that's supposed to be compost, not fertilizer. That one habit will tell you more about what you're actually buying than any brand name ever will.
$12 can buy you almost exactly what my own compost pile produced after 6 weeks of effort. Or it can buy you a fertilizer-boosted product doing a noticeably weaker job, depending entirely on which bag you grab. The difference isn't the price, it's whether the process behind that bag was actually allowed to finish. If you've got the time and space, building your own compost using the ratio from the last video is still the strongest option in this entire series so far. If you don't, this video is your guide to shopping for the next best thing. Read the label, favor specificity over vague marketing language, and treat a fertilizer number on a bag of compost as a signal to look closer, not a reason to trust it more. In the next investigation, I want to bring this series back to the ground itself and look at something we've talked around for 4 videos now, but never tested directly: mulch. Does the type of mulch you use actually change how fast a soil like this recovers, the same way the compost recipe did? I've got 3 mulch types lined up, and I'm running the exact same tests to find out. If you want the full label reading checklist from this video, along with the exact application rates I used for all 3 composts, it's in the Soil Intelligence Handbook, linked in the description below. I want to ensure you're following what is the best lesson you have learned so far in this soil intelligence series. I want to hear from you in the comments section. See you in the next video. Happy gardening.